hope you're all set,
man.
All right, we're going live.
You want close? Real close or not?
Yeah, about like this
time,
right here.
yeah.
Oh, you got some headphones. If you want to use them, Edgar, they should be hanging.
Do I need to use them?
Well, they help me. Some people don't like them. Put them on. Put them on. And see what it sounds like. So to me, it just helps. You got sound in them?
Yeah, I do.
You got sound in them? Yeah. To me, it
But
just.
if I ain't got to wear them, I don't want to.
No, don't wear them.
I don't wear them either.
Blake and Chili don't wear them.
You live?
Oh.
Good gosh, tech guy, you jumped the gun on that a little bit, didn't you?
You said you ready. Go.
Holy smokes! We're live on YouTube?
Yeah.
What's up? Where's my camera at? What's up, YouTube? Is anybody watching this thing? Wait, it's an odd time to be live on YouTube.
82.
Okay, well they'll file on in. Hopefully, most of the people that watch YouTube, they don't work, so they just sit around and watch YouTube. You can go live on YouTube anytime, man, and just hundreds of people show up.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. What's up, YouTube? You probably have noticed by now we're in a different spot. This is actually our first broadcast from the new studio, which, by the way, is not completely set up. Tech guy's been dragging his dang feet. He's slow to order stuff because he hates spending money. Literally, dude, we had this thing set up just like this. I walked in just a few minutes ago, and Tech Guy had everything moved around. He said, "What do you think about that?" I said, "No, I don't like that, man." I think it upset him a little bit.
Oh, I don't care.
Are you upset, Tech Guy?
No, I don't care, man. Whatever. I'll just let you set this thing up. My lights come in today and my camera. I'm gonna give them to you and let you go to town.
No.
Yep.
So yeah, guys, we're gonna continue. This thing will be ready for y'all, hopefully, depending on if the Tech Guy wants to do his job or not. It'll be ready for y'all by Wednesday's episode. But today, what?
No.
It ain't gonna be ready by Wednesday?
I doubt it. You keep talking like that, it might not be ready by 2 Wednesdays.
What the crap, man? Anyhow, y'all let us know how you like the new setup, YouTube. This is for you guys, by the way, so once he gets it all done, y'all can let us know how you like it. By the way, we have the absolute pleasure of having Edgar No Frills Mills
I heard him do his wrestling
in the studio today, son.
Looking good, too, boy.
Look at him, son. You got the camera on him. Look at him over there. This Joker got the tan, got the sunburn going. Just, look, dude. If y'all don't know about Edgar, we've known Edgar for quite a while now. We've ran some courses joint with Osprey Shooting Solutions. That's Edgar's company. You've probably, hopefully, heard him on the podcast in the past, and also you've probably seen his mug on YouTube beating the brakes off of me out there on his range. We need to do that again, by the way. Yeah. That video's almost got 1 million views now, I think. That's
awesome, man.
It just went off the charts, man. But what you might not know about Edgar, because you don't know him like I do, is Edgar Mills is the real deal. All right? Not that Edgar needs me to vouch for him, but I'm vouching for Edgar for all you guys on YouTube that don't know Edgar. He's the real freaking deal. When it comes to tactics, when it comes to shooting, when it comes to any TTPs or methodology behind shooting, Edgar eats, sleeps, and breathes that stuff. And let me tell you, man, a lot of people, I've heard, now, don't take this the wrong way, but a lot of people think you're cocky. And I have to explain to them, no, Edgar's not cocky. Edgar has thought through this. He's tested it. He has held it to the fire, and that's why when you come at Edgar with something that you want to do freaking different, and he's already proved your way wrong, he'll just straight up tell you, "Nah, man, that ain't the way you need to be doing it. You need to do it this way." Not because he has some emotional attachment to the way he does things, but because he's freaking tested it. He's thought about it. He's thought it through. He's put it into action. And he's seen if it would hold up to criticism. And he's the real freaking deal, man. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Welcome to the studio, Edgar.
Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We're glad to have you back. It's been too long, man. You know, I talked to you the other day about at some point maybe sitting down. There's a lot of crap going on, man. As usual in the world, and people are as usual confused. They don't know. People don't. They want actionable steps. They want to hear from people who don't just have some agenda to promote. They want to hear real talk from real people. And I've talked to you about maybe sitting down and doing this on a more regular basis. And so maybe we'll do that. But I got a question for you before we even start.
All right.
Before we even dig into this. What is your favorite shoulder fired rocket launcher out of these three? The Law Rocket, the AT-4, or the Carl Gustav?
Gustav, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would have picked the exact same thing, man.
You got all the variety. You got all the different types of rounds. Reloadable. I mean, that's a no-brainer right there, man.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I always felt like with the AT-4 or the Law Rocket, I never felt like I could really hit anything with them. Like I could get in the general vicinity, but man, when you get dialed in with the Carl G, that joker is accurate, man.
Yeah.
It's an accurate, and not to say, maybe I didn't spend enough time with the AT-4 and the Law Rocket because I taught the Carl G on the line in land warfare for a year. Yeah. And so I got into that rocket launcher. I mean, I sat down with the manual. That nobody does that, by the way. Like I had to dig through.
You gotta read the manuals, man.
I had to. Nobody in the SEAL teams do that.
I know.
I had to dig through the freaking case that the Carl G comes in, and the manual's like in the bottom, like underneath all the packing material. Nobody's ever even cracked that thing open before. So when I got tasked to teach the Carl G in land warfare, I pulled that thing out and I started reading about it. All the different types of rounds, and how the weapon system works, and how to sight it in, and how to be accurate with it. And dude, I spent like an hour in that manual, and it opened my eyes to how awesome that rocket launcher is.
Far more versatile than the other two,
for sure.
Yeah. And you can carry different loadouts with you, in your truck and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely the superior of the three.
That's outstanding. Yeah. I'm glad we can agree upon that. That makes me feel good about myself.
What's the downside though?
The downside to the Carl G?
You gotta have another dude to reload for you.
Yeah, you do. And
that's no big deal. That's not a downside really.
Well, and I would say too, with the Carl G, obviously it's a little harder to haul that thing around.
Yeah, it's harder. Yeah.
Like the Law Rocket, you can sling that joker on your back and you can rock and roll with it.
Yep.
So,
but also these days, if you're still out there with a law, you got about a 50-50 chance that thing's going to go. It probably malfunction or misfire.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, did you ever get to play with the javelin?
I've never shot a live javelin.
I haven't either.
We did all the simulators every time we deployed and all that stuff, but I never shot a live javelin.
So I heard a lot of good things about it. I never got to shoot a live round with a javelin either. But essentially, what I remember about that is you pretty much guide. Don't you have like some way to guide that round?
You can lock in on target, and once it locks in, you hit the button, that thing's going to go. Now the rocket, it kind of, depending on range. I mean, it's a long range weapon. When I say long range, 4K or whatever, I can't remember what the max effective range is. But yeah, once you lock that little radar system in from the clue is the sighting system. Once you lock that thing in, hit the button, it's it's going to go. Yep.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about it, and that was a wild. To see that rocket, like to see it launched. It's weird, man, because it fires off and like it goes, and it kind of comes out. And then, like, the afterburners kick in, and it's just like, is that thing going to go anywhere? And then,
and you see the rocket scoot up.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty cool. I wish I'd had an opportunity, fire a live one, but never did. There's a pretty cool video of the early days of Afghanistan that they video, shooting a live rocket on I think it was a technical. And, they dead on, man.
Yeah. I heard a lot of good
this
things.
Huge valley.
That
was cool.
How do you think, in comparison to the rocket launchers that we have in our U.S. inventory, how do you feel about the RPG in comparison to like the AT-4 or the Law rocket?
Hey, man, the RPG is an incredibly effective weapon, and it's also versatile with the easy to load. Mm-hmm. I'd carry one around for sure. Mm-hmm. Like if we had that. Now we always had Gustavs to take with us around, but yeah, I think RPG is highly effective, and it's still good to go. I mean, I don't know. I guess when they come out with those in the 40s or 50s or something.
There ain't no telling.
But yeah, I think it's highly effective. Underrated weapon. And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember now, the rounds are drop safe, I think, but they got the little protective plastic cap. I wouldn't want to test the theory dropping those rounds, but I think they got a little crystal in them that if you break, then it's armed. Mm-hmm. In some of the American systems, there's a distance.
The spin rate on the round, yeah.
But I don't think they're drop safe, so that's the downside. But yeah. I think they're incredibly effective. Now, I've shot RPGs a ton of times. So out to, I don't, maybe 1,000 yards, but definitely inside 1,000 yards. Yeah. You can do the business with it.
Jam up. And probably the most, I'd say the RPG is probably the most tried and true.
Yeah, man.
Tested, fired.
I would guess that based on, standing armies that use them and the terrorist groups that use them. I'd say they're highly tested and proven.
100%.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
All
right. Well, for all of you military types, that's your that's the segment for you right there. I like that segment, man. I mean, people don't. I mean, how many times you get to discuss stuff like this?
Hey,
man?
If you're in the market, RPGs are probably cheaper.
I guarantee you, they're a lot cheaper and probably a lot easier to get your hands on than a Carl G.
There happens to be a fellow in town here. I won't name his name, but he owns one.
I'll be dang, man. Outstanding.
Yep.
Well, hey, brother, it's been a while, man. What's going on with Osprey Shooting Solutions? And for you guys that are watching, that's Edgar. Edgar owns a training company called Osprey Shooting Solutions. And how is Edgar qualified to train people? How many years in the Army do you have years of service?
Yeah, I was in for 25 years.
25 years of service in the Army, Green Beret.
Yeah, 16 years in the Green Berets, yeah.
And so highly qualified. Obviously, like I told you before, I would say this is your passion, right, Edgar?
Absolutely. I love shooting. Even when I was in, I did a lot of shooting. When I did my staff time, which was at SOCOM, I was the marksmanship program manager. So I got to shoot all the time there, which was a big plus for sanity. I chase down pro shooters, follow guys that are at the edge of whatever innovation. There ain't a lot changes with the fundamentals of shooting, obviously, but guys who try the techniques, superior techniques, right? You can have techniques that adhere to principle, but they're not as good as some other techniques. So I'm always trying to figure out what's the fastest, most efficient, And so I keep up with a lot of those guys. I still shoot competitions. Problem is, you got to chase matches. Up here in Northwest Georgia, you can go down to Tallapoosa or you can go out to Dawsonville. And those are long drives, man.
Yeah, that's a haul.
I shot an IDPA match a couple weeks ago, and I won my division, and I was stoked. And then I looked at the division, and there was only 3 dudes in it.
Hey, man.
I was 13 overall.
At least there was
Yeah.
somebody. I won a car show the other day with my Land Cruiser, and it was the only
Land
4x4 in the category.
Yeah,
so
that's how I felt. I was like, oh, man, no glory there at all. I was 13 out of 40 of all divisions, and I ran iron sights. So, I don't know. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad about it. But, yeah, I do competition just to try to test myself against other humans because if you ain't in no more, you ain't testing yourself against bad guys. Not that they're the best litmus anyway, but, yeah, competition shooting. I'm always reading. I'm always training. Trying to stay good because when you get out there and demo a drill, you better nail it.
yeah, you ain't lying, man.
Otherwise, Now, they don't all go good, but you got to be able to perform at a high level in front of other people.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, you're just talking.
Yeah. But you're kind of branching off with Osprey into other skill sets beside just range time,
Oh, yeah,
right?
man, yeah. Southern Ornithological League. Yep. That's my – now, that's a little passion project for sure. It's not a different company. I'm just calling it – I'm trying to keep the two separate because I don't want to conflate what I do with Southern Ornithological League with shooting. Because, as you well know, I don't like to teach tactics necessarily to civilians.
And is there a reason for that, Edgar?
Well, yeah, man. The reason is, and it's not that I don't think civilians need to know these things or that anything's top secret or any crap like that. But if I had an individual for 5 weeks, they would still just be scratching the surface. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want to have a one-day course on CQB something or another, and then they think that they're some kind of CQB ninja. Some dude breaks in their house and they get smoked. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and they typically want to go a student, a civilian coming into a course wanting to learn CQB. I mean 99.9% of them are going to want to go way faster right off the bat than they need to go. Like literally, you spend a week learning how to pass through the threshold of a door in the military. I mean, literally, you spend a week learning how to walk through a door and take a few steps along the wall, and that's it. And then you move on to the next thing. Yeah. So I get what you're saying. If you had a 5 solid week block starting off with somebody from scratch, then literally they're going to basically know how to go in and clear an empty room.
Well, and then number 2, though. It's my opinion, and it's always been my opinion, that CQB is a team sport. So unless you're on a team that does tactical things like a SWAT team or SF or any kind of military team, it ain't a one-man gig. I don't care what the CIA said. I mean, like it ain't a one-man show. Like, so, and there's all kind of different CQB ain't rocket science, really, but everybody who wants to pay for these big dollar courses, they'd be better served paying for shooting courses and learning to shoot the gun.
Yeah.
Because it don't matter how smooth or fast you can enter a room if you can't hit your target consistently with absolute confidence. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think shooting's far more valuable than any CQB class. And so one of the courses I do in Southern Ornithological League, there's some, I don't even call it CQB, I call it Team SOP development. But it's a scenario. It's not a training course. It's an experience. The training value out of the course is teamwork and leadership.
Yep.
There just happens to be CQB type stuff going on. But that's only so I can have these 8 people at least get a couple runs with each other, knowing, so they can get a feel for what the other person's going to do. That's it. There's not a whole lot of tactics involved in that at all. So yeah, I don't like to teach CQB. Well, I do like to teach it. I love teaching it to cops and soldiers.
Yeah.
Somebody who is like a relevant job. You know what I mean? But anyway, land nav is what I got coming up next with Southern Ornithological League. And believe it or not, man, that's one of my favorite to teach. That's a Boy Scout skill. That's a friggin' life skill. Everybody should be able to land navigate to some degree. So yeah, that's what's coming up next. That's out there by your way. It's up in Sloppy Floyd and what was that? Taylor's Ridge, maybe Pinhoti Trail.
Yeah, there's some steep hills and some good woods.
Yeah,
up in
the
there.
terrain's
Plenty of
going to be
terrain.
good business. Now the good news is it's fall, so there ain't going to be a lot of thick foliage on the trees, and you should be able to terrain associate pretty well.
Yep.
And it's a daylight course. It ain't like the last one we did. So the daylight course, you got all day, the sunshine, you got it all. So it ain't going to be that challenging as far as distance goes. Terrain-wise, it's going to be challenging. And it's not a self-correcting. You get all your points up front this time.
Okay.
And then we'll check your work and then send you on your way.
Okay. So if you get stuck on a point, you got all your points.
Well,
you're not going to pass the course, but you can go to another point.
Exactly. If you show up to it now, every point has the grid on it where you're at. So if you find somebody else's point, at least you'll know where you're at.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's sort of self-correcting, I guess. But I think the terrain is going to be challenging enough. The lanes are only about 5 miles or so. Cross country, that'll translate into about 7 miles or 8 miles probably. And then, that's it, man. That's going to be good. The classroom portion is the goodness of that. I go very deep and robust. The only thing we don't do in the classroom portion is lat long conversion.
I don't blame you.
Nah.
What grid system are you using?
The universal grid system, it's the same type that the military uses. They call it, universal traverse Mercator is the whole system. But for civilian maps, it's called National Grid System. But it reads just like military.
So you're using UTM.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For
UTM.
sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what we use too.
And we use 1/24,000 scale in the class because that's more detailed map and versus 1/50,000. So it's what we used all the time, which sucked.
Yeah.
But 1/24,000, very detailed, and especially with contour line, like you can get a really good feel for the terrain. And then we use, I provide compasses and protractors and all that, and they get to keep those at the end of the course. But I like to use the circle protractors, and then we put a little string in there so you can actually get a good azimuth instead of those square ones. And it's got a 1/24, it's got a 1/50, it's got a 1/100, and some, it's got several scales on it. So we provide the compass, protractor, and pace beads.
So isn't land nav like a huge part of training for the Green Beret pipeline?
Bro, in selection, I'd say if you had the percentage-wise, it's over 50%. You spend a significant amount of time. It's just one course after the next. Now, selection changes here and there, so sometimes they do instruction, sometimes they don't. When I went, there was no instruction. You were kind of expected to know how to land nav a little bit, and these were a bunch of just trial and error courses. But the STAR course is a must-pass. Boy, that one was brutal. That was a long course. You only had to find 5 points, but the points were probably, anywhere from 5 to 20K apart. And you're just going all over the Hoffman training area and up there in North Carolina. But the lanes were designed to send you through the thickest, most nasty draws and swamps and everything like that. So.
Why do you think Why do you think the Army focuses so heavy on land nav, specifically for their special operations selection pipeline? Because if I think back to like the SEAL training pipeline, we had some land nav in third phase out on San Clemente Island, map and compass. Then we had a block in Kodiak, Alaska, that was the most in-depth block. And once we left Kodiak, and we're talking about the longest single land nav evolution in Kodiak was probably 4 days, out. It was a difficult challenge. I mean, you had a lot of terrain. It was terrain associated the whole thing.
Yep.
But after that, that was pretty much it. Why do you think the Army focuses so heavily on that?
Well, I think it's got to do with legacy, honestly.
Okay.
The foundation of SF, because even the unit patch is an arrowhead, and they put a lot of value in the heritage, the pioneer skills and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's why SF does it. If you look now, one of my favorite books of all time is OSS to Green Berets by Colonel Aaron Bank. If you read that book and you look at the beginning of SF, brother, it ain't wildly different than it is now. There's a lot of similarities, just even in the structure or the organization, the way it's structured. But honestly, it's legacy, man. And everybody will tell you, as soon as you need your GPS, the batteries are going to go down or something's going to go wrong. If you're totally dependent on technology, you're going to be losing.
I think that's a big reason. I think that's a big reason why civilians should seek out a good land nav course, is because we are, you guys watching, man, don't freaking lie. You couldn't look, man, I'm guilty of it. Most of us couldn't even find our way around the town that we live in without using that GPS, the maps on our phone. Yeah. I mean, we've lost even the concept of paying attention to cardinal direction and just knowing generally where we are at on the face of the earth. For most people, the concept of actually looking at a map or using a compass and a map together is like literally completely foreign. Yeah. Because we teach a lot of land nav too. We just integrate it into other training. Right, we integrate it into the proving grounds. Yep. We don't have a land nav specific course, but it is integrated into most of what we do. And literally, dude, I have seen hundreds of people pick up a compass like it's like it's a bomb, dude. Like, no idea. And it's so simple. I think it's a foundation, like Edgar said earlier, it's a foundational baseline skill that every person should have a general understanding of. Now, I will say land nav, I believe, is a perishable skill.
It is, for sure.
It's a perishable skill, but if you can get a baseline foundational understanding of the tools, you can put it down for 2 years, 3 years. You can pick it back up 2-3 years later, and within an hour or two, a little bit of refresher, you're going to be clicking again, right?
So let me say this. I am not a natural navigator without a map and compass. So now, living in Colorado was easy. We had the mountains on the west.
Yep.
It was easy. But the technical skill of reading map and reading a compass, I'm good at, right? I can look, and as long as I'm staying on the map and constantly checking, I'm good to go. But yeah, I'm not a natural. The way I used to do things, Back in the day, they had a thing called payphones. They were all over the place. Yeah. And when I was young and I first got my driver's license, I was a wanderer. I like to go places. I like to go drive and see things. Back in the day, in these ancient things, the telephone boxes they had, the telephone booths, they had a thing that was called a telephone book, and it was paper, and it was thick.
Thank you for that history lesson.
Yes,
old
and
man.
in the back of those phone books, they had a map of wherever you were at. And I used to go and tear the map out, and that's how I'd get around town. Not even with a compass. I would just be like, okay, I'm at this street corner and that street corner. And that's how I would get around and learn my way around. That's how I learned my way around Atlanta when I was young. Tear out the paper, look at it. You know, you got 285, the big circle.
Yep.
So they had a big map, and then they had a more detailed map. So that was my introduction. I wasn't a Boy Scout or any crap like that.
No, I wasn't either. And people also don't understand. They don't understand like the basic function of the two tools that you use to navigate. We talked about the compass. People doing it, but they also don't understand the compass is absolutely useless without the map. I mean, it's gonna
sort of.
It's gonna get you can get cardinal direction using the compass without the map, but there are other ways for you to get cardinal direction unless it's night. Well, even at nighttime, there are probably other ways if you know them to get cardinal direction. So I ask people all the time when I teach land nav, well, if you could only have one, which one would you have? And it's amazing. Over 50% of people say, I would take the compass.
Oh, man.
And it's like, no, man.
Nah.
Like, literally, if you have terrain, you can throw the daggone compass. And until it gets dark, you can throw the compass out. You don't even need to pick it up, man.
Terrain or no terrain, if you got a map, you can start moving in a direction.
Yep.
When the sun comes up, okay, I'm going to move east. Or you can tell what's east.
100%.
No matter where you are on the map, like if you got a general region where you are, you can move around with a map.
So you in this course coming up, you teach both dead reckoning and terrain association.
Yeah, so dead reckoning, we do that during the classroom portion. That's sort of introduction to the compass and like walking on azimuth, and we do that on my property right there, short distances. Dead reckoning, as you know, over mountainous terrain is no bueno. No, you'd be walking up and down mountains all day long. Terrain association and the terrain that we're in, it's magical because you can get around. Sometimes people don't really understand. Sometimes it's easier to walk 2 clicks out of the way on favorable terrain than it is to hit that straight point, straight up a daggum cliff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
yeah,
we do dead reckoning for sure. We spend a lot of time though on terrain. One, identifying on the map, and then translating that. And we do practical exercise out on my property as well. Well, we actually kind of go over to the nature preserve.
Yep.
There's some real good terrain where we can examine the map and examine the terrain, and like you can really see what's going on. So we do some good practical exercises during the classroom portion.
So you're teaching the students how to identify summits, saddles, draws,
all that. Yep.
All that.
For sure.
Reading it off of topography.
Yep.
Super valuable skill and fun.
Yeah.
Probably one of the funnest things that you
man.
can do, man.
I think it is, and I think the last course we did, regardless of it turned out to be a daggum endurance event, but the classroom portion, I think everybody enjoyed it.
It was interesting to me that you designed an endurance event.
Well, look, man, it wasn't meant to be that. It was 20-mile lanes.
Look, Jonah come out and he said, "All right, Edgar's putting on land nav. I'm gonna come. We're just gonna do it just to touch."
I got a good picture of Jonah sitting up against a tree. I love Jonah.
Yeah, we got to hear all kinds of stories.
Did he tell you about sitting
man.
in some amp pile?
Oh, dude, I think he was at our house right after that, and he was tore up, son.
Yeah. When you land navigating at night, you can't just plop down anywhere, and not in Georgia, but
no. That was what was that? Was that spring? Were the leaves still on the trees?
Oh yeah,
it would have been fall, right? Wasn't it?
No, it was. Damn, no, leaves were still on. It was hot.
Leaves were still on. Yeah, I remember it was hot. Bugs were out.
Spring.
Yeah.
It was still hot out. And it was in Talladega National Forest over north of I-20, near Piedmont, Alabama. That part of
which is that is a difficult area to navigate, man.
Son, it was rough.
This is my perspective on that area. Of course, you've trained out there, so you know more than I do. But the terrain out there, it's not small enough to consider it micro terrain, but you have a lot of terrain features, but you don't have a lot of major, like you were talking about in Colorado. You've got a major ridge line or some sort of handrail or something because it's so rolling, man. And if you they all look the same. Yep. All those little knobs and summits and draws, they all look the same. So at any point, if you get off, if you lose your spot where you are on the map, it's really difficult to recalibrate because, especially with that sort of foliage in there, if you're out in Alaska, you're out in Colorado, you're out in Utah, if you lose your spot on the map, you've got so much massive terrain around you. Yep. I can sight a few summits and I can triangulate my position extremely accurately. You can't do that in the Talladega National Forest. Nope. There's nothing big enough to do
especially with the foliage on.
And you can't see out.
Especially with all that foliage. But,
it's probably one of the most difficult places in the area that you could possibly navigate.
What they're calling mountains over there, Mount Duggan and Mount this and that and the other, is a hill in Colorado.
Oh, yeah, it's just a hill.
It's just a hill. So it's very important to be able to match your direction on your compass with the way you're moving. And if you're moving at one angle and you're reading 15 degrees different, you're lost. Like you ain't. And that happened on one of the points specifically, but and there's a lot of trails out there that either ain't on the map, or
that's
there's
everywhere.
Trails on the map that ain't on the ground.
That's everywhere, at least that I've seen.
Yeah, and I get that was a big during the classroom. That was one of those foot stomps on the floor. Like, hey guys, there's phantom trails out there, and then there's like. And
trails that were there 30 years ago.
And one of the points out there had that, right? And the magic answer was nobody found that point. One, I think Jonah and Greg found that point, I think. Nobody else in the class did. And so I asked everybody else, well, what happened? Well, this road went there. I was like, okay, well, the azimuth's obviously way off, so it wasn't that road. Yeah, no, we figured that. And I asked, and there was one, I was like, did anybody take a pace count from where you start the main road, which was a known point on the map, to where the point was? It's like, did anybody actually do a pace count? I got a bunch of.
Well, why would anybody do a pace count? You just taught that to them just because you wanted to teach them something, right?
I got a bunch of looks and a bunch of eyebrows. Like, oh man,
yeah.
Nobody did a pace count that would have solved that problem. If they would have stayed on azimuth and on pace. So that at that point, that's where dead reckoning would have been. Once you realize that, man, this trail ain't here or whatever, dead reckoning would have been the answer for that. So, but, experienced navigators might do that. People in a class is a learning point.
Dude, I want to do your course. Like that, that to me, especially that one that you ran. This one that's coming up in November? It's in a couple of weeks,
18,
right?
19, yeah.
18, 19. Yep. That's going to be an awesome course, but you've got this that's going to be a great spot for beginners because you've got this massive ridgeline to reset off of, right?
Exactly.
But out in the Talladega National Forest, I'm going to tell you, man, like you, I'm not a natural navigator, but I know how to use the tools to get to where I'm going. Navigating out there, I know.
Well, and then in the dark.
would challenge the best navigators that exist, without a doubt.
So here's what we've come up with, and me and Justin and Corey talked about this after, is the course we're doing next week or in 18-19, that's a proper course, educational course, and the land nav exercise is challenging enough, but it's
proof of concept.
The one we're going to do in Talladega, we're turning that into a challenge. We're not going to make that a course anymore.
That's going to be epic, dude.
We're just going to turn it into an orienteer race.
Can I get in on that?
Yeah, no, for sure. And when I get back and when we do all that, we will. We're going to do it. We're going to try to either do it late winter, early spring, before leaves get on the trees, or
and after
in the
deer
fall.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One or the other. That way, one, it's cool enough that you ain't out there, because it was hot, and we had water at the base camp. They all carried some water with them, and most of them had water purification method. But still,
Most of them?
They was coming back through. That was an option on the packing list. Was like, hey, bring some water purification. But, a lot of, they came back to base camp to get water and stuff. So, but we're going to turn it into an orienteer race.
That's going to be legit.
And we're going to leave it the same, because it was epic. And
you only have one team hit all the points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even then, it was just one guy.
Okay.
Because then Greg, Jonah was taking a little cat nap.
Okay. I didn't hear that part of it. Boy, Jonah left that out of the story.
Well, Greg wanted to go find all of them. And they were a team, so it counts. But Greg,
Jonah left that out of the story.
And Greg, he's a wire. He's amped up.
Yeah, Greg came out to the proving grounds.
Yeah, and he wanted to go do it, so he went and found them, and so they got them all. He might have left out also. Jonah might have left out also that they thumbed a ride. They was walking down.
Well,
did he tell you that?
No, he didn't. He didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Jonah Bunch. Which, by the way, if y'all don't know Jonah Bunch, y'all should go follow Jonah Bunch. He has a YouTube channel, Bunch's Diesel Performance.
Yep.
Bunch's Diesel Performance. All right, Jonah Bunch what's Jonah, man? What is Jonah? About 300?
Yeah.
Jonah about 300.
Boy, yeah.
But he ain't the soft fat type. This joker is just a tank.
Yeah.
But one of the unique things about Jonah Bunch is he is very innovative. Okay, I think that's one of his biggest strengths. It really is. I mean, he will follow. I trust Jonah to have enough integrity to follow the rules. But if your rules are not specific enough,
I didn't brief it.
That's it. If your rules are not specific enough for Jonah Bunch,
can't catch a ride.
He is going to find
and here's what happened.
way.
They was out on one because they could walk roads and trails. I didn't. It wasn't like selection where you can't walk roads and trails. So I was like, by all means, use roads and trails, especially at night. I don't want you walking off a cliff. But they came out on one of the fire breaks, and he said some old boy in a pickup drove by and was like, "What y'all doing?" Well, we're moving that way. Hop in. So they jumped in.
Heck yeah, man.
They saved them about 3 to 5 miles or something.
That's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with that, man. Innovation.
I'm briefing it next time now,
dude. Innovation is a gift that not a lot of people have, but it's extremely important.
You can call it innovation, you can call it problem solving, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. Man. So I actually almost got kicked out of the Navy for being innovative during a training evolution.
Yeah.
In SEAL qualification training, we were in SEER school. It's the escape and evade, right? Where you get freaking captured and all this. So this was like moving through an urban environment. So we had got captured and then we escaped. And so then we have to learn, we have to go out and blend into this urban environment and make our way to our pickup point, right? So we're moving through. It was actually on base. The urban environment was base, right? Yeah. So when we escape our captors, of course we're in military uniform. Well, we're briefed on like, okay, you need to blend in. Well, you're not. I'm not blending in, walking around in a pair of Woodland BDUs.
Yeah.
And so we're walking. We get out. We're walking down this alleyway, and there's a little restaurant on base called the Rice King. All right, little Chinese place. Well, the Rice King in this back alley left one of their windows open. Okay? So we ease on up in through that window into the Rice King, make our way to the locker room of the Rice King, and change out of these uniforms and pull off the clothes that these Rice King people left in their locker room. And we walk out of there and we bebop down the street like we're just a couple of sailors, you know, out after a drunken night on base there. And we make it to the E&E point. Well, old Rice King calls Naval Special Warfare the next day. And so then Naval Special Warfare, instead of saying, good job, guys, me and a couple of my classmates, good job. You guys were innovative. You saw an opportunity. You went in. You did what you were taught. We didn't break anything.
Right. Yeah.
The window was open, right? Yep. Instead of doing that, Naval Special Warfare, of course, sides with Big Navy, throws us slap under the bus, and then decides they're going to try to prosecute us for breaking and entering during this training environment and doing what the crap we're supposed to be doing. It was my last block of SEAL qualification. I was leaving that block to then graduate SEAL qualification training and go to my SEAL team. Yep. And I'm sitting there for 2 weeks, all the way literally up to a few days before graduation, going through captain's mass, going through all this bull crap. They're telling us, no, we're going to kick you out of the Navy. You want to talk about stressed out, man? That was one of the most stressful times in my life. And it screwed me up, man, because you know what it did? It made me have a bad attitude. I was a kid back then, man. Yeah. And it made me start to resent Naval Special Warfare. Like, how are these guys going to throw us? How is the head shed here going to side with the freaking Rice King instead of saying, Rice King, screw you, man. We're training warriors. You shouldn't have left your dang window open. Yep. How are they going to throw us under the bus and try to kick us out of the daggone Navy and prosecute us? And here, we've already went through all of BUDS. We've been training for a year. Yeah. And they're going to throw us under the bus? And, dude, I got a really bad attitude. Yeah, I can see it. Screwed me up, dude.
That was your first taste of understanding that if there's anything about the big military is that they don't care about you as an individual. All right, as long as you're doing all the right stuff, you're good. If you do anything that makes any wave whatsoever, they don't care about you.
Yeah, but man, you always, until you learned that lesson, you always thought that, okay, man, this is Naval Special Warfare. Like, the people in charge here, obviously, unless we go out and get a freaking DUI or we do something stupid, like, in this scenario, you're thinking, well, surely the Commodore, surely the Admiral, the people who are in charge of Warcom are going to stand up for us. Yeah. No, they bow their knee. Yeah. The Naval Special Warfare bowed their knee to Big Navy to keep themselves clean. And it's interesting about the military, man, is the people who get into those, not all, but some of the people who get into those high up leadership positions, they essentially become politicians.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And they don't always get there because their performance was good. They get there because they appease the right people. Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, it was wild, man, and it put a bitter taste in my mouth. It started my career off in a bad way.
No, I can see it.
Yeah,
and I agree. I think all these senior level officers are all just politicians in development. You know what I mean? That's all they are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of politicking. I understand all that high level stuff. There's a lot of politicking and tact and all these things you got to employ. But for a young guy, trying to be a combat killer, and then you get in trouble for climbing through a window in a school where you were taught.
Yeah.
That, do anything you need to do to.
Yeah. Well, I know you understand this stuff on a way deeper level than me. I was only an E6 in the Navy. That's the highest rank I got.
Yeah.
So you went all the way to E9, right?
No, E8. Yeah,
E8.
I was a master sergeant when I retired.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So yeah, I know. And working at SOCOM, I can't imagine the stuff you were.
Well, as an E8, you can imagine I was among the lower ranking dudes walking around.
Oh
there.
yeah, for sure.
So it was an eye opener.
I can't see you being a butt kisser, Edgar.
No, I'm not. Well, that's why I was E8 when I retired. No, I didn't want to. Well, in the truth, I never want to be a sergeant major anyway. Team sergeant's the last good job, in my opinion, because you're still out there doing the business. You're responsible for 11 other dudes. You got a fair amount of influence, I'd say. The higher ups listen to you a little bit because you've been around for a minute. And you still get to go out and do the thing, Sergeant major, after that, once you're a sergeant major, that's a staff job. Even if you got a company, it's pretty much still a staff job. Now, that's not to take away from any sergeant major who's been killed in combat. Sometimes, you want to go out there with the boys and things like that. But, yeah, E8's the last good job. It ain't the first good job, but it's the last good job, and it's definitely, in my opinion, the best job.
Really?
Oh, yeah, man. And any young guy who don't want to be a team sergeant, I think I don't know, you should want to be in charge of a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you should definitely reach a point in your maturity.
Yeah.
As you progress through your career that you desire to lead a team.
Yeah, for sure.
It may take you a while to get there. Yeah. I know for me, when I was active duty through my early 20s, in the very early part of my career, like half the time, dude, I was just trying to freaking survive and not freaking screw stuff up, and like it was really until my late 20s, late 20s, 28, 29 years old, that I could even expand my mind enough to think, okay, I can actually have an opportunity to share with dudes the things I've learned, all the crap I've screwed up, and I can actually now start thinking about making an impact.
Yeah.
That was a real distinct transition in my mind. It took me a while to get there. I'm a slow learner, though.
Me too. Yeah. That was hard.
Yeah, I think it was awesome that you had prior service. A lot of prior service.
Oh, yeah, prior to go. Yeah, for sure.
Because you had all this time to mature before.
Well, you say that. When I was brand new to SF, I was a senior E6 already. And I was in 1st Battalion, and we were in Afghanistan. And my first ever team sergeant was like a 20-year SF guy. And he was what I imagined. He was what I pictured when I thought of SF. But he retired. And we got a new team sergeant right before we went to Afghanistan. And I went to the 18 Fox course, the Intel course. So they deployed while I was gone. I went on the PDSS before that, but then I was in school when they deployed, and then I linked up with them after school. And once I got over there, man, the whole team was looking at me bright-eyed like, hey, man, you got to do something. This guy sucks. So the team sergeant got fired while in Afghanistan, and I was the next senior guy. I was in SF for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then I was an E7 team sergeant. Buddy, I wasn't ready for that action at all. I was like, man, hold on. My warrant officer, I was like, Tommy, bud, what am I supposed to do? He's like, be a team sergeant.
How did you navigate that? I mean,
well, we just did squad leader type stuff, just at a higher level. I'd been a squad leader in 82nd, but now you got higher level guys. So I was hard time navigating, personalities and things like. I was always a confrontational dude. I was very aggressive in my younger age.
You're still pretty aggressive.
Yeah,
that's okay, Edgar.
It was rough, But I stayed in for that deployment, and then they left me in for a JSET to Ukraine. So we went over to Ukraine, did great things, whatever. Then I went to 2nd Battalion, PCS'd after that. But yeah, it was crazy, man. Because not only when I showed up to the team, not only did I have a team sergeant that I imagined I would have, I had 2 seniors, and that's not normal. There was already 218 Bravos on the team. One of them was getting ready to move somewhere and retire or something. I don't know what, but so I had extra kick in the junk. You know what I mean? I had 2 guys kicking me in the junk.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they were gone. All the senior guys were gone within like a year of me showing up.
Dude, that had to have like forced you to grow.
It forced
such
a lot of stuff.
Rapid rate, man.
It forced a lot of stuff. But then I did not have a good time on my next team because then the team sergeant there I happened to think was not a good team sergeant. So I didn't last on that team. I went to a battalion for a minute, and then I'm 88 during that too. So then I went to my team that I was on. But
well, good on you for stepping up to do that, man. I mean, because
but here's the thing: the same way I got a mountain team. I go in our sergeant major's office, and he's like, "Hey, you're taking 2-3." And I was like, "I'm scared of heights, and I'm not mountain qualified." He's like, "That's all right."
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
I'm still scared of heights, by the way.
I think a lot of people have a perspective that within the special operations community, and I'm only speaking from my own personal experience. Everybody's experience is different, right? I think a lot of people think that there is just this massive pool of really good, eager, ready leaders to step into any freaking position that needs to be filled. That is not how it is, man. Like, so in my first platoon, halfway through workup, our platoon chief got fired, and nobody replaced him. So we just went on through the rest of the workup, and then went on deployment without a platoon chief is the most integral part of a SEAL platoon. He's the highest ranking enlisted person.
That's the same as a team sergeant on the SF team.
So there was nobody to replace him.
Yep.
And there was nobody that really within the platoon that was ready or willing or assigned to step in and fill that role because the person behind him, the LPO, was he was doing the best he could.
Yeah.
We'll just put it at that. And so if you think that there's just this bunch of people waiting around to step into a spot, that's not the way it is.
So here's what it is, man. Here's what I think anyway. Because I told you guys before, I think I'm a junior psychologist also. Everybody sees, or all the civilian, everybody on the outside looks in, they see a bunch of physically fit combat dudes who can do all kind of crazy stuff, and they're all leaders, and they're all this and that and the other. But when you're in the space, everybody's got their own little issues. You can have the most fit guy, the most charismatic guy, and he's a perfect. He does everything right and checks all the blocks, and that's good. And then the dude commits suicide.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's all kind of stuff like that, and it's constant. So leadership, generally speaking, I don't think does a good job at. I ain't saying you be soft on guys and hug on guys, but the leadership will stress you out, and they do it whether they mean to do it or not because they're looking after their own careers. And people who are career guys, and that's their thing, I kind of have a distrust for a careerist. Now, that don't say everybody who's been in the Army for 20 years is a bad guy. I'm just saying I wouldn't consider myself a careerist, and I did 25 years. But everybody has their chinks in their armor, man. Even the best dudes, Now, obviously, you got tier 1 units where the fittest of the dudes, and I wouldn't even necessarily say they're all better problem solvers, but definitely the fitter dudes kind of, and it's, what is it? They're like less than 1% of SF or special operations, something like that. But even then, man, they still,
I agree with you.
They do some weird stuff that has some kind of like legal ramifications, or some guy will commit suicide out of the blue, or something. So there's a problem there somewhere. So everybody looks good on the outside, and the military's they're working on trying to help address mental, issues and stuff like that. But man, I mean, everybody's got their chinks,
My experience in the U.S. Navy was the SEAL team was a bunch of freaking regular dudes.
Yeah.
That had issues. Yeah. That most of them were, a lot of them were broken in many different ways, but they just wouldn't quit. You could depend. You could just everyone there. You could just depend on them not to quit.
Yeah,
they didn't necessarily know how to do the thing that needed to be done, but somebody was going to find a way to do it, and that's the way the ball kept rolling.
That's what I see as a common thread in why special operations dudes are special operations dudes. You could probably, alcoholism. Just crazy stuff, womanizing, habitual DUI, there's even dudes that were doing drugs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But when it came down to it, you could depend on them.
They were going to show up for work, and they were going to work hard.
Do the business.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's what I see as the common thread, is what makes special operations in general different.
That's what makes them special.
Than the regular,
Yeah.
Because regardless, now I can tell you this, one of my best mates, Tommy, he and I were hard drinkers. We were stationed in Korea together. We were doing an EMT course, and we showed up to that joker every day, jackhammered, buddy. And we both passed the friggin' course. Blacked out drunk, because we get up and do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Now, I ain't saying that's good, bad, or otherwise. I'm saying you got something, you get up and you go do it.
That's right. Yeah.
However hard or whatever.
Man, that nails it. I love that. You got something to do, you get up and go and do it. It doesn't really matter how you feel that day.
Yep.
You just get up and go and do it.
So I think that's the common thread with SOF versus not, because a lot of people, I don't get paid enough for this, or this and that and the other. SOF guys just get up and hustle because of their buddy, really, or because of this. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm doing it.
That's the expectation. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to take a little break real quick, and then I want to come in, Edgar, and shift the conversation, and I want to talk about the Libertarian Party.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I would consider myself more bordering along the lines of anarchy, or an anarchist, but I would say the closest party that I could be on board with would be a libertarian. But I have also heard a lot of people that comment the reason why the libertarian ideas don't ever gain any traction is because they sound good, but they won't actually work. And so we'll get into that conversation. All right, let's take a little break. YouTube, you guys stand by. We're going to come back. Edgar's going to brief us up on this.
I'm going to put you black and mute, YouTube. Just deal with it.
But I want to have one, because I was going to get an SF ring when I retired. I didn't. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I didn't, but I don't wear rings. You know what I mean?
Well, I was like, you don't think about, at least me anyways, man. Like, I remember when we went through SQT, at SQT graduation, SIG came out and said, hey guys, we're going to offer you guys direct purchase of a SIG P226, and we're going to engrave the Trident, Naval Special Warfare on the slide. Like, when you're in it, you're like, why the crap would I want that, man? Like, you know, and so luckily my parents bought one of those.
Yeah.
Nice. And it's like the only gun I have now that is just not for sale.
Yeah.
Because it's special now.
Yeah.
You know, but you know that.
Yeah, when you're in, you don't think about that stuff.
No, you don't, man.
Just like pictures. Yeah. I wish I had pictures of more pictures.
Yeah.
I've got very few pictures of anything ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you don't think about it.
You don't think about it until you're old, and you're like, man, wish I had some pictures.
Yeah, I agree. I have one photograph of me and my sea daddy, Jake Hubman, who committed suicide in 2012. And he was the dude that Jake was so patient with me, dude. Like, I screwed so much stuff up, and he was the one that hammered me. But like so I remember one time, just a little story about Jake, just to memorialize him for a minute. Jake Hubman. We were doing SAUC, which is urban warfare training.
Yeah. And
in my first platoon, I ran an A-dub, Mark 46, which is a 5.56 caliber belt-fed machine gun.
Yep.
And I rocked that A-dub. I mean, I really loved it. I enjoyed it. But one day we got done doing a run, and we were just using blanks because it was, you know, urban training. And so, you know, you can get a little lackadaisical using blanks. Yeah. I mean, you can get a little complacent. I'll be straight up with you. And so one day we get done with a run, and we're all sitting around just debriefing the run that we just did through the little city there. And I got my A-dub is sitting to the side, feed tray's up, it's clear, right? But I forgot to shift the safety selector to safe. And so Jake sees that. And he made a big deal out of that, which he should have. That's a big deal, right? So he said, you know what, Chad? You want to be complacent? All right. Well, for the rest of the week, you're going to run from the front gate to our training site here. And it was about 4 miles from the front gate to the training site. And he said, you're going to run in full kit with your machine gun. So that added 2 hours to my day, my training day, every single day. But you know what he did? He ran it with me every single day. Because, he literally, and in his mind, it was partially his fault that I didn't put my safety selector on safe.
Yeah.
It was partially his fault that I was being complacent because we're out there shooting blanks and we're just doing run after run after run after run. And it's like, stuff like that, man, just stuck with me, dude.
Yeah.
Like that dude did that. I mean, that was like my earliest examples of what it actually looked like tangibly to be a good leader, to be a good mentor. They came from that dude, man. I don't know. I got one picture with him. I'm standing beside him out on a land warfare range. Yeah. But just speaking of pictures, that's probably from my entire time in service, that's the most valuable picture that I have. Yep. And yeah, that's a long story. We won't go into that. I want to shift the conversation.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's
this is I don't know where I want to start with this, to be honest with you. Obviously, are you happy with the way our government is functioning here in the United States?
Don't set me up with a weak question like that. Obviously not. No.
Okay.
Well, I've always been a political skeptic, right? Always. But I can tell you, and there wasn't. I discovered libertarianism probably in 2010-ish or so. Had a couple of teammates that were, one of my buddies was on the Ron Paul, sorry. And I started getting curious. But this, the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a big kick in the junk for every service member ever, in my opinion. There was a lot of guys in my circle of friends or colleagues that were visibly emotional about the whole thing. And the partners we built over there just getting left out to hang and all this and that for political expedience. Now, you can argue how many different ways there were to leave Afghanistan. Well, the way that happened was not the right way. And you can also argue why were we still there. So I latched on to the political, the Libertarian Party as a political identity. If people ask about it, I'm not a libertarian. I don't walk around wearing my libertarian T-shirt, but I'm not one to impose my belief system on people. Mm-hmm. But it's the platform that makes sense. It's the platform. I'm not an isolationist either when it comes to the United States. I believe in open free trade, which the Libertarian Party espouses. Also, there's a common logo or phrase out there. I'm already against the next war. That's not to say there's no such thing as just war. I imagine there is. But I can't remember what famous general said it, but war's a racket. It's always been a racket and it always will be a racket. Financial racket.
Yeah.
So anybody who believes that we're sending money to Ukraine because of just Russia's evil and Ukraine's good, they're confused about that. Same with Israel and Palestine. Whatever side you fall down on, it doesn't matter. My point is, we're not compelled to be on anybody's side financially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, libertarians, I like them.
So I want you to kind of just give us the reasons why you have chosen this, and as you said, as a political identity. What are some of the fundamental aspects of the Libertarian Party that really look to you like solutions? Why have you chosen this as a political identity?
Well, I think because, as I do, they, as a party, kind of examines everything through the lens of individual liberty. Starts with the individual. And to me, that's very important. We've lost our individual identities to all these various labels that are going around these days. So these days, you've got to be in a tribe of some sort. And if you're in that tribe, you got to be against whatever that tribe's against. But first and foremost, we're all individuals. And from the Christian point of view, God ain't going to save this tribe over this tribe. Right? You're responsible to accept Jesus and all that stuff, correct? Mm-hmm. Just because your crew did it don't mean you're, right?
Yeah.
We're individuals. And yes, if a group of individuals are acting in for a common goal, that's fine. But that group shouldn't necessarily define you, right? You're still an individual. You're individually responsible for your own actions and all those things. Mm-hmm. So the Libertarian Party they look through the lens of individual freedom. So does a thing violate my individual freedom? Does a proposed law violate, first of all, my individual freedom? And if the answer is yes, then that's it. Don't take no further steps. It's no good. Mm-hmm. Never mind so tax money, right? Obviously, taxation is theft, right?
Well, side note. Well, no, finish, and we'll get into taxes in a little bit. Yeah,
But we have no say in where our tax money goes.
that's right.
You know, anywhere from 20 to 40% of our money goes to the government in some big magical pot that goes out to.
I would say closer to 60 if you calculated everything.
Yeah, right. With sales tax and the whole works. So we're working to. In the Army, we call it the self-licking ice cream. The government exists to sustain itself these days. And the libertarian perspective of the government is it should exist to protect individual rights, to enforce contracts, right? As an individual, if you and I go into a contract together and one of us violated that the government's job is to arbitrate that. And then provide, by virtue of protecting individual rights, there should be some aspect of law enforcement. Now, look, man, I got a love-hate relationship with the cops, there needs to be some law and order. But if you look at the amount of laws that are on the books, they could probably be
freaking dangerous.
Probably be reduced by 80%.
It's dangerous.
At least.
Well, you understand why there are so many laws on the books.
Well, it's all.
It's so that anyone at any time can be incriminated.
Right. I wish I remember who said it, but there was somebody, and this, like, you can wake up and go about your daily business and violate 8 laws a day.
Exactly.
I mean, just by getting up and going to get breakfast, go to the gym, whatnot. So, yeah, there's too many laws. That doesn't mean cops have to violently enforce those laws, but, so yeah, libertarians are all about, to oversimplify it is don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. That's their little easy catchphrase. Don't hurt other people and don't take their stuff. The platform based around it. So, that's very simplistic. And what about foreign policy and all this stuff? Foreign policy, free trade. So who do we have embargoes against? Cuba, for instance. We don't want to trade with Cuba because they're bad and evil. Well, meanwhile, politicians are smoking Cuban cigars. But never mind that. Cuba's bad and evil. We don't want to trade with them, so we're going to block them off. Is Saudi Arabia, what have they got going on? Are they benevolent, good, angelic? Their government's all democratic and all that? No, man, they're still over there chopping people's arms off and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'll trade with them.
Yeah.
Because there's a strategic reason to trade with them.
Yep.
So if you take the morality out of the whole thing, and just strictly on financial grounds determine who we're going to trade with or not, that'll take a lot of people throw their own morality in there.
Well, yeah. Who is to determine who is good and who is bad? Because
if you ask, let's see, there's probably a pretty good I don't know what the percentage is, a segment of the population in America that are Muslim. They probably got no issue. Well, never mind the problems within the Muslim cultures, which countries hate which countries for whatever tribal reasons also. But if you take the morality out of it and you just, okay, let's look at foreign trade through an economic spectrum, free trade would benefit us. When we tax our own goods and then we give tax breaks to foreign entities, that's no good, right? So a libertarian platform is kind of against tariffs and things like that. More open free trade. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I kind of disagree with open border policies. Libertarians kind of have depends on which libertarians you ask, but much like every other political entity, there's little factions within. I belong to the Mises caucus, and Mises was a Austrian economist. And I'm not an economist in any. I can barely do math. But another one of my teammates turned me on to. He said something about Keynesian economics. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He looked at me like I was dumb, so I had to go research and looked at Keynes versus Mises as far as economics go. And the no-brainer is von Mises. Free trade. Yep, I like that. Borders. I think I don't. As far as immigration goes, I'm not against it, but we need to know who's in the country and how many, because that's how our census counts how many votes are given to any given state based on the number of humans. So if we just have open borders, we don't really have a good election system based on the number of votes that get dished out, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
because if you go do a head count from the census, you're just doing a head count. Whether they're friggin' citizens or not, is irrelevant to them. So,
well, I think there are that yes, that is an issue with open borders, but I don't even think that, like, fundamentally, a nation cannot even exist without.
Well, it's not a sovereign nation
without borders.
Right?
Like,
no, yeah, that's right.
When we, if you look back historically, the collapse of empires, a big thing that played into the collapse of most empires is the fact that they reached a point that they could no longer maintain their borders.
Yeah.
And so they were slowly over time taken over and collapsed internally by if we look at the example of what the Roman Empire, by what they called barbarians, anyone who wasn't Roman. The Roman Empire had expanded so far, so vast that they could no longer maintain their borders. And so if you have a nation who cannot maintain the border, then that nation will be overrun. By barbarians.
It's you can no longer define it.
Exactly.
Borders define. Citizenship, what's the point of being a citizen if we have open borders? There's no benefit of citizenship. So you're kind of crapping on the American citizen when you advocate for just wide open, no control borders. Yeah, I believe we should let immigrants into our country, but
there's a process.
One of the only jobs that Congress is mandated to do is to regulate immigration. That they just refuse to take a stand on that, because America was built on immigrant. Okay, I agree with that, but that don't mean you just got to kick the door open and hope that they all come to your district so you can get votes.
Yeah,
which it leads us to the question: is it by design and all this and that? So I don't necessarily agree with open borders, but I do agree with strong immigration. Used to, there was a kind of a conditional. We looked for the best and brightest from other countries to come here, because that benefited America. Now we're looking for voter rolls. Mm-hmm. I think. Mm-hmm. So if they can get as many immigrants in here as possible, be there to greet them and put them on their voting rolls, and they're good to go.
While we're discussing the topic or just scratching the surface of the topic of voting, do you think that our elections still have integrity? Do you think that we have election integrity?
No. I don't think our elections were ever rock solid. Now, I think there's probably been voter fraud since the get-go, but now everything's just becoming evident because of the internet and because of the amount of people who are out to get watchdogs, if you will.
Yeah. So what is your take on voting?
Well, my take is that local elections are more important than national elections, and ours is coming up on Tuesday, by the way. I believe that the sheriff should be one of the most important figures voted for in your county, because I also believe that no matter what happens nationally, if they pass some bullcrap unconstitutional law, all the sheriff has to do is go, no, we're not enforcing that. And carry on. Mm-hmm. If the federal government decides to make example and send an army of federal agents and or troops to dispute that sheriff's sovereignty, that would be such a... I mean, we're already living in 1984 Orwell. You know what I'm saying? That would go well beyond what I even think the progressives are willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're willing to, but the optics of it would be too bad for them, and the backlash would be insane. So
yeah,
I think voting for a sheriff, and I think having a sheriff with integrity and big balls is more important than who you vote for on a national election.
Okay. Well, would you still advocate for participating in national elections? Do you think there's value in that?
I vote every time, and I vote Libertarian every time. I know it ain't gonna happen. I'm just trying to put numbers on the board, bro. Because largely, and I hate to, I'm not shitting on the American public. Sorry, I'm not crapping on the American public, but we're very much team. Everybody's divided up into their teams, man. You got the red team and the blue team. No matter who's on the ticket, they're going to go vote for their team. Whether that person's been indicted for bribery or for whatever, it doesn't matter. That's their guy. People don't think on an individual level. Their team, it doesn't matter the Democrat Party, the guy you vote for. It doesn't matter. The platform is the platform. So I'm voting for a platform, not a dude or a lady. I voted for Joe Jorgensen. I voted for doggone old Gary. I can't remember his name now. He did the Aleppo thing. Somebody asked him about Aleppo during the campaign, and he was like, "I don't know what Aleppo is," and that was it.
Well,
but he's a cyclist, Anyway,
well, overall, this the Libertarian Party would it be a true statement to say that they are advocating for or believe in much smaller federal government?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, for sure.
So down to what point? Like are we talking a skeleton crew or
that's where you get the different factions. You got some that think the libertarians can change things from within. So the federal structure, realistically, we're probably never going to change the federal structure. I mean, it's a good structure, by the way. I don't think it needs changing structurally. I think the individuals, now, a lot of people don't know this, but Ron Paul is a big figure in the Libertarian Party. He happens to disagree with term limits. I mean, he happens to disagree that term limits need to happen. He thinks term limits are that wouldn't make any effect whatsoever. I disagree with that.
Yeah,
I think term limits would be a start. The way you amass these politicians that are there for decades, the way they amass so many little secrets and favors is over time, man.
Yeah.
If you're only there for 4 years, there's only so many secrets and favors you can amass before you're out of there mandatorily. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Well, what if this guy's really good? Well, if he's really good, he can mentor another guy who, if he can get the votes, he gets the votes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said, individually, it probably don't matter that much. I think, I don't know, probably Nancy Pelosi's probably one of the most corrupt senators in office. What if she retired today? Would there be a stand-up, person take her spot? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. So
the level of corruption within the federal government is absolutely astounding.
Yeah.
When you hear of it, you almost can't believe it. It's so astounding. I just heard today, I was listening to the Sean Ryan show, and he has a he has a female CIA targeter that was involved in Benghazi and all that around 2012, and she's in there just, spilling the beans. And she's talking about, I heard today, she was talking about Hillary Clinton as the Secretary of State would not meet with leaders of other nations as the Secretary of State unless that leader of the other nation made a donation to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's you can't even make that up.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, that's it. Let's take a big leap. A lot of the progressives these days will openly tell you they are Democrat socialists. Well, the next step from socialism is communism.
Socialism's not even a thing. It's just a step.
Yeah, that's right. But there's people in charge. Even though you think everything's getting distributed equally to all the people, there's still somebody in charge. And that person in charge is still driving around in a $200,000 car. And that person in charge is still going to have stocks that you don't have, or insider information that you don't have. There's still going to be an elite class, even with communism.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what they're fighting for on that. Well, we got starving, homeless, and hungry. That's going to be the case unless the government. Is it the government's job to make sure you're not homeless? I don't think it is. However, there's millions and millions going to campaign funds.
I would say billions.
Speaking of Clinton, let's go back to Haiti. All the relief funds that was raised for Haiti. Haiti should be a goddamn utopia right now. Right? But
I don't even know what that number would be.
There's nothing different. There's nothing different right now.
Nothing.
So until and I'm banging on the left, but the right is equally as bad as far as insider trading and capitalizing on information and contracts from the military or for the military through, name it, Lockheed, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman. Most famously Dick Cheney and Kellogg Brown and Root, who made all the money in the 90s and Bosnia and all that stuff. Until these people are held accountable, until they stand in front of a judge and are held accountable for these, are they crimes? Some insider trading is a crime. To say a politician, when a politician proposes a law that benefits the company that their husband just dumped $10 million into, that's insider trading, man. There's no way around it. So until these people start getting held accountable for any kind of criminal activity whatsoever, I think there should be criminal charges brought on the whole Afghan withdrawal. Yeah. That was negligent. Is it negligent homicide? I don't know how many people died for that. How many Americans died, but never mind the number of Afghan commando or partners.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about insider trading. That's like a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Compared to what some of these individuals who are placed in elected office are guilty. We are talking about literal crimes against humanity. Yeah. I mean, what is it? Okay, what is it when you force the population to take an experimental drug that then goes on to affect a large percentage of those individuals' health for the rest of their life, and some of them it even kills them? What the crap, man? That is.
But look who owns the Justice Department right now. Nothing's going to happen.
You're exactly right.
Nothing's going to happen.
So how, I mean, in what scenario, other than an all-out revolution, would these individuals ever be placed in a position to where they are actually held accountable? Because they're, like you said, the condition of the justice system that it's in right now, it's in no condition to hold anyone accountable because they're all in league.
They're all in league. There's a word that floats around in the military a lot called integrity. And until there's some saying out there, man, I wish I could remember all these quotes because I see them all the time. People who seek to be in charge aren't worthy of being in charge. People who don't seek to be in charge are the people you want in charge.
That's a hard one. Yeah.
So all these people that run for office, did they ever have integrity? Who knows, man?
Chili says that all the time.
When they were young, did they have integrity? And then somewhere during law school, because most of them are lawyers, where did they get the bug for this power? At what point did they get poked? Or is it family legacy, like the Clintons or the Kennedys with or the
Bushes.
Or the Bushes with legacy? It's just assumed, like I'm just you know what I mean? Until people with integrity start holding critical offices, that's one thing. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking about it's rich versus poor. I used to think that when I was a teenager. And the rich get rich, the poor just get crapped on. And that's kind of true. But however, it ain't rich versus poor. It seems that way. What it is people who want to run your life versus people who don't. There are plenty of rich dudes out there that ain't trying to impose their will on you, that don't want you to take a shot if you don't want to take a shot. There are plenty of rich folks out there doing that. Plenty of rich folks out there giving to worthy charities that ain't trying to tell you how to live your life.
Providing hundreds of thousands of jobs for millions of people.
So it ain't rich against poor. It's people who want to impose their will versus people who want to let you be.
Yeah.
So that's where I see that in the bigger, like most general terms. As far as the Libertarian Party, they think that way, right? We just want to take over and leave you alone. That's one of the things they say all the time. Take over and leave you alone. Let you do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. What are the things that matter, right? You can't go around murdering nobody. If you enter into a contract, honor the contract.
The Ten Commandments are a great place to start if you want to look at what matters.
Yeah. Now, not most, a lot of libertarians will say they're atheist or non. Now, I think I said this before. I follow Ayn Rand, and I believe in the philosophy of objectivism. And she was an atheist, and she didn't believe in altruism in any form. She felt like the people who did good things did them out of a bit of selfishness. And that's kind of true, I think. When you help somebody out, when you give a bum a sandwich or give him a ride, to the laundromat or something, you feel good about yourself when you do it. Right? And some people do it just for that instead of a general. But when you help somebody else out, it helps you, and it helps people in that circle of influence.
Yeah,
for whatever
the community.
Reason. Right, it helps the community.
If the community is impacted in a positive way, you are impacted in a positive way.
So you
because
can call
you're
that
part of the
selfish
community.
if you want to.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's just semantics on the reason you did the thing, whether you did it to feel good about yourself and to help the community, or whether you did it because you think that it's what God wants you to do. You still did the thing, and the thing still had a positive impact. So as an adult, I've always hated selfish people, always. It burns me to the core to see a selfish man do a thing. Something as simple as when your team comes from training and there's stuff coming off the truck and some dude runs to the shower real quick. Burns me up.
Well, we see it all the time.
Or something
in our
as selfish.
People don't understand that.
As a man who will take food over his kid. You know what I mean? Like he'll he'll get a thing and not provide for the kid first. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with Ayn Rand's version of I do things because, yeah, I think that's the Jesus thing to do. But I also do it because the bum you help out on the street, maybe you stopped him from committing suicide that day. You know what I mean? That dude could go on to be a great human. He might be somebody's dad or something. So he might benefit hundreds of lives. He might go on to be a school teacher and touch people. There's a million things. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. Why you do things, good things, is kind of, to me, sort of a semantic whatever, as long as you're doing good things. If you're doing bad things, that's a whole nother subject. We got to talk about that. But from the libertarian perspective, whether you do it because of you're selfishly helping yourself and your community, is that bad? No. Or what are you doing it because that's what Jesus would do and you want to do? It's still helping yourself and your community and someone else. So I think the libertarians have the right answer on whether you arrive to that answer by different means, you still get to the right answer. And the government's role in life is to make sure people ain't murdering each other and to protect individual rights. That's it.
Yeah. Could that not be accomplished simply with government on the state and local level?
I think so. Oh yeah, I think so.
That's the thing, man, because I go to the extreme on this stuff. Like I personally don't believe there is any, and I don't think there's any justification for federal government whatsoever. But I go to the extreme on this. I mean, if there is a federal government whatsoever, it needs to be a skeleton crew, and the people who are in the positions, holding positions within that federal government, need to be shaking in their boots, afraid that they're going to screw something up or do something selfish,
that's right.
and get took out back and hung for it. Okay, but I go as far as to say I don't believe that a standing army is even necessary. I could see the defense of this continent being upheld by individual state militias who are allied with the states around them. Instead of having a standing army that's controlled by the federal government, which is nothing but the world's police.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah. And so how do we eliminate that? We have every single state we can still call this the United States. We can still be in union with one another. Yeah. But every single state maintains their militia. And if somebody wants to come up in here,
well, that's. I don't disagree with you. That's sort of a utopian.
It sounds so extreme, man.
The best arguments for what you're saying can be found prior to the founding of our country, when they were arguing over becoming a federal, the Federalist Papers, for instance. When they were arguing, because the arguments against were strong. And they hold true, and everything that they argued against has come true.
And exactly, look what it's led us
everything
to. That's the thing.
Every argument has come true. Even writing the Constitution, everything, it was explicitly stated, I want to say by Thomas Jefferson, that we don't, I'm paraphrasing obviously, we don't need a list of rights that are to be upheld or not violated. No right should be violated. Why should that be on a piece of paper? That's just going to become a list of things that now we have to fight for. Now we have to fight for our rights. that are explicitly listed in this document. So the Constitution, even though it was a genius piece of work, there were opponents of the Constitution that did not want to create one big federal government. They wanted every state to be autonomous.
Yeah, yeah. And in the early days, every state
colonies
thought of themselves, but even as states, in the beginning, every state viewed themselves as a literal sovereign entity.
And that's the way it was meant to be. Even under the Constitution, that's the way it was meant to be. The federal government has taken so much ground that they weren't explicitly given. They've just taken it. People have gone along with it and not challenged it. And so now every state is beholden to the federal government based on money. Every state wants the federal money because somehow the federal government, let's call it 1913, created the Federal Reserve and the IRS, and now the federal government gets all our money. The state gets a little bit, but the federal government gets it all, and then sprinkles it back to the states as the states comply with whatever nonsense. So yeah, it's gotten out of control. It's gotten sideways. And I don't think realistically it's always going to be the structure that it is. I think the only realistic way to make it change is that people are held accountable for crimes. That somehow, some way, all these agencies don't need to exist. But the Justice Department falls under the executive branch, and whoever's appointed. These are appointees, and the heads of these places are appointees. Nobody's elected them. They're not hired based on merit. They're appointed based on political affiliation. Yeah. That's it. And that's got to change. The Justice Department, if anything, I don't know how much sense it makes for it to fall under the judicial branch, but why not? I don't know. Something that's less biased. I'd say the Supreme Court, even though they're appointees as well, they're still somewhat fairly balanced. Somewhat. But to appoint a new guy every time a new administration takes over, that makes no sense. I'm just putting in the guy that's going to do what I want him to do. Yeah. Whereas that wouldn't be the case if it fell under the judicial branch, for instance.
Yep.
I don't know how to solve this appointee problem, this bureaucrat problem. That's the problem. The elected officials are only a wee part of the bigger machine that whenever your guy gets voted out of office and then another guy gets voted in, the majority of those staffers are still the same. This guy will bring a few of his head people with him, but the rest of them are all the same.
I think
entrenched.
Yeah, and I think that's you kind of said a key phrase right there, which makes determining like a plan of action or even coming up with a solution to the problems that we are facing as a nation so convoluted is the fact that it is such a massive machine.
Yeah, it's
like,
enormous.
Chili mentioned it the other day on the podcast. Like, okay, man, well, who do you go after? Like, who you gonna go after?
Yeah.
And it's
me and my wife have this conversation. I heard that. I listened to that podcast. And I ain't trying to get nobody arrested or shut down here, but if certain people fail to exist anymore, key people, who are the key people? Which ones matter? Because like I said a little while ago, if Nancy Pelosi goes away, you're going to get Gavin Newsom.
Exactly.
If Mitt Romney goes away, you get a Liz Cheney. What difference does it make? That's just a different face.
Mm-hmm.
The machine is still the machine.
Yes.
So how do you fix that? I mean, you can't go after a person.
Exactly.
It's a system.
It's the system. It's massive, man.
Now, I got a few key points that I think I've worked on these for a while. I shared them with my good buddy Dan Regi. He was one of my senior echo and a good homie. He's a libertarian, and we talked about some things. I think term limits is one spot. Campaign finance needs to be fixed. These super PACs need to not exist.
Well, yeah. I think primarily the reason for that is so that any citizen could have, any credible citizen.
Here's where my next point on that.
Okay, thank you.
Campaign finance is that it caps at $2,000.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're Lockheed Martin or Chad Wright. $2,000 is what you can give to this person. That's it, and that's all. And if during campaign time somehow you get a brand new, SUV, that needs to be accounted for. How you got it? I can't go out here and buy a freaking pencil on my business account without it being accounted for. Exactly. I don't believe elected politicians or their staff. Now this borderlines on individual rights. But I don't believe elected politicians or their staff should be able to trade on the stock market, because that would literally is common sense. The elected official or their staff or their immediate family. Now you're like, well, you're taking a private citizen, taking their ability to do. Hey, that's if you're going to go for public office.
When
to
you
me, that's
enter public office,
that's the price you pay.
That's exactly right.
You can resume trading after you're out. Yeah. But while you're in, your immediate family and your staff.
When you enter service in the military, guess what? You don't have the same rights as a private citizen.
And I'm a Ron Paul. I believe that the IRS should be abolished completely. Now, let's say, well, that's a bridge too far. We should flatten the tax code completely. I don't know if you remember Herman Cain and the 777 plan.
I remember Herman, but I didn't know his 777 plan.
Yeah, something like 7%, federal sales, and that's it, period. So if I'm making $10,000 a year and I'm on poverty, I'm still paying 7%, which is, if I make $20 million a year, I pay 7%.
Yep.
That's a significant chunk of money.
You mean coming up with some sort of tax system that you can actually freaking understand and account for? And oh man!
Now already,
why would you do that?
Already, the millionaires and billionaires pay the vast majority of tax. They evade a lot of tax, and good on them for it. I wish I could evade tax. I just don't know how. I ain't got a lawyer to help me do it. I wouldn't pay a dime if I could get away with it. But if there's got to be a tax, a friggin' 11th grade dude should be able to open the tax code, and it should be about that big, like a little workbook. Open it up and go, yep, this is what I owe. Boom, and be done with it.
Yep. And instead of paying somebody thousands of dollars a year,
you should get a little card in the mail,
keep you from going out of business.
To say, hey, it's tax time. Here's the brackets. Pay what you owe. Anyway, flatten the tax code. Fix the tax code. I believe the income tax, not income tax, IRS. If that was completely squished down, there would be no more loopholes. There would be the amount of money that would come in would be astronomical, I believe. Even with less percentage.
I see. I know. I've thought the same thing.
Take the loopholes out.
I've thought the same thing.
And then check this out. Now this one's a little extreme, but we've got PBS and NPR. Those are public. Allegedly public services. I don't believe that any campaign should be able to purchase any airtime on anything. Every campaign, I don't care, from libertarian all the way to whoever the two top dogs are, should get equal amount of time on public access. Mm-hmm. PBS and NPR.
Why do you say that's extreme? That's common. That would be a common sense policy.
Yeah, because that would take the a lot of the money out of this campaign stuff.
Yeah.
So if everybody gets equal time,
or how about if you want to run a campaign, how about you put in the freaking work and come and sit in here on the 3 to 7 podcast?
Yeah. But would you give every candidate equal time though? So that's what I'm saying with public TV and radio. They're public.
They have a time slot.
That's it. These are public officials. You're a public asset.
Yeah.
This is political season. Everybody gets the equal amount of time. That's it. And as far as debates go, the DNC and the RNC, they all have these weird rules that keep third party out of debates. That should be leveled. It may seem silly, but old Vermin Supreme should be able to get on there and debate with Joe Biden. You know Vermin, with the guy with the boot on his head?
No.
That's comical. But he's a famous, well-known libertarian guy. And he's comical and he's bizarre. But if he ran for president, he should be able to get on there and answer the same question to the PBS guy as Donald Trump. Yeah.
I agree.
However bizarre and however much time that takes, whatever, man. If they can get on the ballot, what does it cost? A couple grand to get on a ballot? I mean, it's something. It's not. As long as you're a citizen, you're over 35 or whatever it is. Whatever the requirements for president are.
Yeah.
A lot of people meet those requirements, but then it's a money game. You got to get that out of it to make it truly equitable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if the money was not in the game, then you would see the people who were seeking profit and power, they would start to drop off.
Yeah. Because
it's not worth their effort and time to go chase this thing to where they can't any longer trade stocks and all this stuff. So I think you'd get more quality, more people with more integrity running for office.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think people who, if there's such a thing, people who genuinely care about their nation, yes, you would get more people like that, right?
Yeah.
Man, all of this sounds great, Edgar. Wonderful points, by the way. I think awesome points. It all sounds great, but I personally just cannot see a way that is ever even a few of those things that those things are ever going to actually happen.
No, I agree. They're not going to happen.
I just don't see a way, man. So what in the crap do we do? That's the question. Everybody, people are right now. People need leadership. Most people need leadership, and they're hungry for it, man. They just want somebody to step up and lead this thing in the way that we all, not all, but I would say the majority. See, we've been duped into thinking that American people who believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, who believe in the Constitution, who believe in freedom, we've been duped into thinking we're the minority. I don't believe that we are the minority. I believe that we are still the majority, and I believe through 2020 and 2021, I believe that woke millions of people up in a significant way.
Yeah.
And the numbers have increased. That was a huge shift, man. A huge shift.
Yeah.
And so I think the majority is there, but there's no leadership and position to move things forward in that direction. And I cannot see a way for leadership to get into that position to move things forward in the right direction without some level of violence. I cannot picture it.
Well, I mean, what's the impetus? What's going to cause the violence? People, I got buddies that talk about this stuff a lot.
By the way, that's not what I want.
No,
that would be like you don't know how painful that would be,
right.
Listener. You think that sounds like fun? No, man. You're talking about your kids being hungry. You're talking about people that you love dying from starvation and sickness and being killed, and it would be ugly, man.
People, fortunately, especially combat veterans and especially guys who did combat a lot, are intimate with violence and the results of violence. And most Americans do not understand what happens. The death and destruction and the pain and agony and the chaos and all those things. Most of Americans, they talk big junk about revolution and all this stuff. You don't want to be out there shooting another American and killing families and this and that and the other in the name of politics. You think you do, but you don't. If you think you're going to, what's a revolution like? We're all going to band together and march on the Capitol and lynch politicians or something? What does it look like?
Exactly.
And what's the impetus? What's the spark that's going to kick it off? I mean, even back during the Revolutionary War, man, it was years built up before it actually kicked off. Years of build up.
Yeah.
And not to say we ain't been building up for years, we have, but people need to really, really critically examine that before they think that just because you got a bunch of guns in your basement and a bunch of ammo don't mean nothing. You need to think of what a revolution looks like. Most people I know are sane, right? They have guns for defense, right? They're just going to defend their home, stand tall. I ain't bugging out nowhere if it goes down. I'm staying in my house, and that's what, shoot deer and turkey and wait it out
and rely on the people around
rely
you.
on my neighbors.
Yeah.
And so that's a way of saying rely on your community. I know my neighbor, as me and him we're going to be good to go. I know it. But what about the neighbors down the street? I don't know them as well, but I know them. So, magnify that just a little bit. Well, what about my community? What about Southwest Rome right there in Lindale? Do I know? Yeah, I know a lot of people. So, all right. Politically, why don't I just be active in that, voting for council members and this and that and the other? And that's what I think the answer is. The tides are going to ebb and flow of national level politics. It'll go back to some other way. There'll be a Republican wave or something will happen, and people will complain. The left will think the world's ending, and the right will be like, "Oh, this is it." But politicians in general are always going to step on your rights, whether it's got to do with finances, trading, guns, illegal surveillance, which has been going on at least since 2001, hasn't it?
Yeah,
from a Republican.
On a level that we can't even comprehend.
By a Republican.
Yeah.
So, well, it's always going to suck for us as individuals.
Well,
it's just how's it going to suck? What flavor's the suck going to be? So
you know,
keep
man,
your community strong.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also don't think that we consider it enough or have the conversation enough that I would say one of, if not the biggest things that got us to this point that we are at right now, which is definitely by far the worst political national environment that I've ever experienced in my life. One of the biggest contributing factors is that we, the citizens of the United States, have for decades just chosen to be less and less involved, to care less and less about our communities, about the laws, rules, and regulations that do infringe upon our liberty. In other words, we've just said, you know what? Whatever, do whatever you, as long as you let me stay relatively comfortable, whatever you guys are doing, just do it, right? And so, and also, we have for generations chosen to neglect ourselves individually. The standards that we hold ourselves to physically, mentally, spiritually have just degraded to the point that it's freaking sad, dude. It's absolutely sad. We've said many times here on the podcast, the smallest and I would say the smallest and the most important form of government is the family. The family. It's got 100%. To start there. And you, as the leader of your family, are you freaking fat, lazy, watching porn every day, have no skills whatsoever, nothing, no value that you can add to the community that you live in, no value that you can bring to bear because you've chosen to get some stupid freaking job or degree in basket weaving and sit on your butt and play video games and watch freaking porn all day and totally neglect any idea of faith, anything that challenges you physically, mentally, and spiritually, and you've just degraded to this shell of this piece of crap human, and that has, over the course of probably the last 3 or 4 decades, it's just progressed. Our standards for ourselves, especially as men, have gotten to the point that we are just a freaking shell of what we should be. What the crap is wrong with us? And I almost, you want to talk about an actionable step. Like what is the step for you, viewer, to watch, or for you, viewer, to take? The first step is squaring yourself away, and then squaring your family away, and then teaching others to do the same thing who are in your vicinity, who you can impact. Square yourself away, physically, mentally. And that, when I say physically, you understand that. When I say square yourself away mentally, that means learn to freaking think. That means learn skills. Get skills. Have a trade. Have something that you can bring to bear that adds value. Challenge yourself on those levels. You should never stop training and learning. Never. Period. And spiritually, you need to get into the Word of God because it is the ultimate blueprint for how we can live our lives and function not only individually, but as a family unit and also as a community. It literally, anything you want. You want to learn how to manage your finances? It's in there. You want to learn about work ethic? It's in there. You want to learn about how you should treat people? It's in there. Anything you want. It's the ultimate blueprint. So if you don't want to believe in God, I can't make you believe in God or Jesus Christ. But the answers that you need are in God's word. So square yourself away. Square your family away. And then teach others. That's what's so important about what you do at Osprey. It's so much bigger. What you do at Osprey in training people, it's a big deal that you open yourself up to train other people. I won't do it. Not to train people the way you train people. Yeah. We won't do that.
Yeah.
It is a big deal that you do that. And it's important because it's on such a higher level than just your training. It's not the shooting. It's you are helping people square themselves away by teaching them a valuable skill that then they can possess, which benefits not only them, but their family and their community.
Well, I hope so.
You want an actionable step? There's your first step. You fat, lazy turd. I'm being freaking serious, man. I'm being serious, man. Look at the generation before you, the generation before that. These men, when I look back on my father's generation, on my grandfather's generation, which are the only two I have perspective on, obviously, these men, they weren't bad men, but their entire life just revolved around just doing whatever their job, that was their life, doing whatever their job was. I mean, they didn't want to be involved. They didn't want to challenge it. They just wanted to do their freaking job, man. And it's like, we can't function that way. We don't have that luxury because of the construct and the ideals of the United States of America. We don't have the luxury just to be that way.
Well, you're looking at a couple of generations of folks that, well, the prosperity of the 50s, right? The nuclear family and all that. The man got up and went to work. He worked the same job for 30 years, got a pension, retired, put his kids through college. The adversity wasn't, the 60s became, there was adversity in the 60s, but it was self-imposed. The civil rights movement and everything like that created a lot of turmoil. And then it was necessary turmoil, but it created turmoil. And then it started becoming philosophical hardships and not physical hardships. Now, yes, Vietnam War and all that, that was guys who went and fought. But as a society in general, the thing was get up and go to work, put your head down. They still worked their job for 30 years.
Don't ask questions. Don't benefits. Think.
My dad, I loved him to death. He's passed. He worked for the city of Atlanta for 35 years. He complained every day, every day. But he got up and went to work, came home every day, kept his head down and did his thing. Got his pension. Even went back to work there after he retired as a supervisor. Complained every day. But that was it. Keep your head down. These days we're looking, because of the way everything's so crazy, and self-reliance has become a big thing, like to the population that it wasn't before. Like it's become popular to be self-reliant, which is good. Me and my wife were talking about this the other day about the doggone, what are those jokers up in like the Amish?
Yeah.
You don't ever hear nothing out of the Amish, bro. They got their stuff locked in. They're good to go. They don't matter what's going on in the world around them. They build their barns. They build their wagons. They make their own food. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
They have something.
They're good until they're not good. Their way of life is upheld by the people who have chosen to make sure.
Here's where I'm going.
Okay, thank you.
America is now full of people of different values, different backgrounds, different whatever. They're a isolated community of humans that support each other. Rome alone, God knows. Well, there's probably maybe 50,000 folks around here in the city limits. Probably 100,000 if you look, Somerville and all around. I'd say probably most of the majority for sure are of the same value system. Probably grew up in a church, or whatever. But there's also people around here who have zero values whatsoever. There's a lot of drugs here and stuff like that. So unless you have a value system that you can empathize with, you're not those people. There's always going to be something at odds. And I'm not bashing on Muslims, but I'm telling you, they have a different value system than us. So when push comes to shove, they're going to band together with theirs, and the Christians are going to band together with theirs. So I ain't advocating any kind. I'm saying unless you find a shared value system with people in your community, people that you're with every day around, you're just doing it for yourself. Because without and you said it a minute ago, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can't make you believe in God, but the Bible will tell you the right things to do. Well, what most of these people who consider themselves atheists, or most of these other religions or whatever, but atheists especially, I bust chops on, is like, well, where'd you get your value system from?
When you trace that question down in the root, they can't answer it.
Yeah, well, the 10 Commandments is what the answer is.
Well,
they don't, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. They didn't just get enlightened with some kind of value system. Don't hurt other people. Don't kill. Don't steal.
Yeah.
Don't covet your neighbor's wife. And,
without a value system, any action is permissible.
Exactly. So most of these people will tell you they have a value system and they know right from wrong. And I say, well, where did you learn that? And they don't. The Bible, Sunday school is where they friggin' learned it, and then they chose to, because of whatever reason, because Jim Baker and Tammy Baker were all effed up. Well, I'm an atheist now.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That's just two humans doing human stuff, and you got nothing to do with Jesus.
Yep.
So the value system comes from somewhere. You can also translate that value system pretty much across most religions. So anyway, you got to have some kind of shared values. Yeah, I'm sure they can diverge at some point, but there has to be a base level of shared values for a community to survive as a community.
Well, yes, you're exactly right. I mean, in the United States of America was founded on the shared value system,
and that existed until, and this is why with the open border situation, when you got people coming in not only unregulated, unchecked, but people of different values and sometimes opposing values, there's going to be problems, and that's where we're at today. There's problems based on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what have you got? You guys watched the news yesterday? The Palestinian supporters in Washington, D.C. desecrating statues.
Yeah, I saw that.
Whatnot. I wonder if they're going to get the same. You think they're going to get equal justice as the January 6th?
Yeah, it crossed my mind, yeah.
So probably not, right? Because it's politically expedient for the moment, anyway. It's kind of funny to watch all these politicians and celebrities. Now they're starting to have to choose sides when it comes to Israel and Palestine. Mm-hmm. And it's real funny to see who's trying to jockey the right answer so they don't get canceled.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is, though, check it out. I'm going to say something controversial here. You can disagree with Palestinians, i.e. Hamas, murdering innocent civilians, and also disagree with Israel's heavy-handed methods. That now I'm not as read in on what goes on in Israel. But
Look, man.
well, let me continue. They call it an open air prison. If there's how many Palestinians are there? A couple million? If maybe more than that. I may be wrong on the number, but it ain't an open air prison if there's 2 million people there. If it feels like a prison, it's because you're making it feel like a prison. Create your community, make your community, make it good. But instead, the way America does business, and because of where America does business, this way everybody else does business, is there's a victim class, and then there's an oppressor class. So, USA, we're the oppressors. Israel's the oppressors, and everybody else is the victim. So, the way our culture works these days is anybody who's been labeled a victim is now, their behavior is they get a free pass for everything.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely wrong, but that's the way it is.
I can't understand, and we'll close. We're getting ready to shut it down because we don't need to cover. We don't have to cover everything today.
No,
we can come back and have a. But I can't understand why people cannot wrap their minds around this issue or this war between Israel and Palestine. The foundational reasons for their war, they are age-old.
Yeah.
Age-old reasons. Now, yes, in every conflict, you have certain individuals that have certain agendas that are wanting to do things for their own personal benefits. Yes, I agree with you, but when we get down to the root of it, when there is a group of people who say, we want to go and take that land because we think that land belongs to us because we were there in ancient days and we want to take that land back. Or maybe they weren't even there. Maybe you just have a group of people who say, we want to go take this land to be our land. Well, that group of people, they have got to go into that land, and guess what their only option is? Yeah. To completely obliterate the entire population of the land that they want to take. Okay? That is what we did to take this continent. We literally obliterated an entire population of people who had been living on this land for no telling how many thousands of years. We didn't take prisoners. We beat them down from every possible angle until we whipped and killed every single one of them who had the will to fight. That's what we did.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
And so, if Israel says, we want to take this land because we believe it belongs to us, you talk about a heavy hand. What other option do you have? You got to drop the hammer, son. And let me tell you, if you're the people who are on the land, who this other group of people is trying to come and take from you, you better hope you've got a heavier hand than they do. And if you don't, you get beat and you lose your land. But you can't just try to go and take a piece of land and just halfway whoop the people who are there and try to make deals with them no. You got to obliterate them. Well, every single one that has the will to fight. It's literally an age-old example of conflict. When you look at Israel in the Old Testament Bible, as Israel was moving through the land, when the Lord God said, Israel, go here, he didn't say, go here and make a deal with these people so that y'all can live amongst them. No, he said, go in there and destroy every last dog, person, woman, child. You got to destroy them all. Now, That makes a lot of people mad. But that's what they did. That's what they've done over and over and over again. That's what we did to take ownership of the continent that we now possess. And if somebody ever wants to take this continent from us, you think they're going to be able to come in here and make a deal with me and Edgar, so that they can live amongst us?
No, you're right. But the form of it's evolved. I don't want to speak in such hyperbole as to say there is an invasion, but with open borders and we don't keep track of who's coming in, there's bad guys among us. I'm 100% certain there's sleepers living in various little towns just waiting on the word to go do whatever. But yeah, that'll be minimal in effect to what'll happen if they tried to do what you're saying. Yeah. Yep. And that's one of the reasons that certain folks ain't ever going to give up guns, for instance. Ain't regardless of ATF, notes that they send down once in a while that don't have a force of law. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. That's warfare. That's what warfare is.
Yeah.
Modern society, they think warfare can be handled diplomatically now. There's a time for diplomacy, but with Israel and the Middle East, this phrase has been around there for a long time. But if every country in the Middle East gave up their guns, everything would exist as it is. If the Israelis gave up their guns, they would be obliterated immediately, instantly. And all these pro-Palestinian people would then have to answer for the carnage of every child, every woman, every animal, everything that was considered Jewish would be slaughtered to bits.
100%. Immediately.
So
with no hesitation.
So that's what I was saying about this victim oppressor business. They throw labels around to get PR wins, and they don't understand that the Palestinians, I don't think they're victims at all.
Yeah.
I think they just exacerbate any group that's a Muslim extremist group. They get the sympathy. They always get the sympathy, but then they do the most horrific things.
Yeah, we live in the upside down,
and we somehow they get a free pass because they're victims. So yeah.
Well, how much time have we been going, Edgar?
2.5.
Oh, yep.
Daggone, son.
30 minutes and 5 seconds.
Daggone. Well,
start running your chops over there, man.
I enjoyed it, Edgar, because I like to talk about stuff like this. I'm a amateur philosopher myself. I can't get Blake to talk about this stuff with me.
He talks about it all the time. I hear him.
Chili won't talk about it with me. It was really, to me.
Blake, hey, any bit of wisdom that comes out on this podcast comes from
Well, yeah, that's true.
Thanks,
yeah.
You're welcome.
There's really no wisdom was shared in this conversation, just some thoughts of some old men. Yeah,
just some opinions.
Yeah.
Biased opinions.
I might title this episode "Old Men's Thoughts." Yeah. So no, man, I really appreciate your time. It was fun, and would love to be able to have you back on with our other mutual friend.
Yeah, man.
At some point, because we need to get down to the bottom of high or low ready. All right, or high or low port. Yeah, I know you call it high. You call it high port. We need to really get down.
So in all my classes, when I do classes with this right here,
we can't get to the bottom of it now.
Right.
Wait, save it for next time we do
I'll
it.
save it for next time.
All right, so we got to get.
It's controversial also.
There's a lot of things that we need to get to the bottom of, and these are fun conversations. So if you guys want to hear more conversations like this, let me know. Let me and Edgar know, and let us know by way of sharing the episode. If you share the episode, tag me, ChadWright278. Tag Edgar. Where can they tag you?
Osprey Shooting Solutions.
So tag Edgar and Osprey Shooting Solutions if you want to see more of these. Drop a comment in the YouTube section. Let us know what you thought about our conversation today, and If you guys want it, maybe we'll come in here and have another conversation and get down to the bottom of some things like the high or low port.
I'd love to do it,
all the stuff that matters in life. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys.
Hey, Chad, hold on. 18-19 November.
18
Land navigation.
Yep. And is that sign up on the website?
2teamguys.com, but you can get there via OspreyShootingSolutions.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go give Edgar a follow.
Land nav, let's do it.
Go freaking train. Yeah, you're right. I told you guys, Edgar's legit. He's one of the dudes that you can go and train with and know that he's not gonna be feeding you a line of freaking sexy bull crap.
No frills,
no
baby.
frills, 100%, man. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday, Lord willing, for our regularly scheduled episode. Love you guys. Nuff said.
Sweet. 2 hours and a half, man. Good Lord. Your people gonna stop listening. You're gonna lose.